Oh, camera. Can you guys hear us?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Okay, you can hear him yourself.
Huh. That's a weird. Yeah, it is. That's better.
Can you hear us?
Yes. Good to
Okay.
go, I think.
Good, good. So thank you again for taking the time. This is the class of Business 437, yeah, Applied Logistics for Vegetables and Fruits. And I would let you guys start. So you guys are also on the projector screen. This is the screen is facing the students, the opposite side.
Okay.
Yeah. And I will let you guys introduce and take it from there. And you're free to take, I mean, even extra time if you need to. So take as long as you want. And I've shared the unsolved version of your assignment already with the class. So they do have access to it.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. So my name is George Voorhees. This is Ernesto. We work for Brent, Redmond Logistics. We're a motor carrier. We're based out of Hollister, but we also have an office down in Los Angeles. So pretty much I'll just start with what we do. So we're a motor carrier. We're also part brokerage. So we're doing all the hauling for all like the produce stuff for retail chains like Walmart, Whole Foods, Del Monte, Fresh Express, Smart and Final, Rayleigh's, Sprouts, pretty much all the grocery stores you guys shop at. So we transport all the refrigerated goods into those stores and everything. So we run LTL and we also run FTL, full truckloads, into those stores. Right now we're just serving the 5 western states, California, Nevada, Arizona, Washington, and Oregon. So we're going all around those states and picking up shipments and making deliveries for those retail chains. So I was going over chapter 12, and I'll kind of talk about chapter 12 and kind of relate how it relates to our business. So in the chapter, it says the primary advantage of trucking motor carriers, flexibility. So that's probably what our customers like us most for, is our flexibility with our trucks and everything. So we have some customers like Rayleigh's, Sprouts, they purchase like lettuce or stuff out in the fields, and then they make a lot of changes. So that's probably the best advantage of a trucking company, is we can make those changes quickly. We just have to call the driver and say, hey, you know what, instead of going to Monterey, you're going to be going to Salinas to pick up. And there's a lot of changes in the produce industry. So just dealing with all those changes is probably a huge advantage for being a truck. I know you guys were talking about the other modes of transportation with rail, pipeline, and air. We don't really do any of that stuff. Just stick to the trucking and drivers over the road. So that's a little bio on what we do here. Like I mentioned, we do have a terminal in LA where all the LTL shipments come in. So we have a bunch of smaller trucks that they drive around Los Angeles and San Diego. They pick those up and bring it into our facility in Los Angeles, where we consolidate everything and we put it on line haul trucks. And the line haul trucks go up to Washington, Oregon, San Francisco area. So that's one lane that we're running right now. And then we also do full truckloads out of Arizona going up to Northern California, Salinas area, and Nevada, Washington. So those ones are all full trucks, so that, you know, the customer pays for the entire freight on that truck. And pretty much, you know, we'll pick it up from the shipper and deliver it to the consignee. And that's part of our business as well. So like I said, we're a motor carrier. We also do brokerage stuff. So we may only have like 10 drivers in Los Angeles or 10 drivers up here in Monterey, and we have 20 loads. So the big challenge is covering all the loads and all the freight and everything with a certain amount of trucks. So when we don't have all the equipment available, then we go out and we look on the internet for carriers. And we set them up in our system, and they haul, because we only have a limited number of trucks. So that's a big part of our business also. As far as regulations, we do work with the DOT, and big thing with the DOT is hours of service. So there's only a certain amount of hours that a driver can legally drive in one day. So he can only drive 11 hours a day, and he needs to spend 10 hours off due to sleeping. So that's a regulation. Another 3 hours can be used for working or you know, checking the reefer and that kind of stuff there. Another challenge with our company is the reverse logistics. So I know you guys are an agricultural class, so one of the big issues is when hauling produce and everything is rejections and the reverse logistics. So we may be delivering, for example, we deliver bananas for Walmart, and if the bananas are too green or they're too yellow, the customer will just kick them. So that's a big challenge, is finding out what to do with those rejected product. And produce is extremely delicate. So if something's not right, if the bananas are too green, then they'll just kick them. And so that's a big challenge that we deal with every day there. So you want to?
Sure. Yeah. So the professor, he shared chapters 12 and 13. So we're, trying to relate some of our business with you guys. Like George said, we're based in, our headquarters are in Hollister. And most of what we moved is produce, being in the Salinas area. Just quick question. Anyone out there local, from the Salinas, Castroville, Gonzales, Soledad area? Couple? Okay. Yeah, me too. I actually went to a Gonzales High. So, all my family works in ag. I went to Hartnell College, transferred out of there. Most of our business, being a refrigerated motor carrier, is ag. We also do, frozen products and sometimes dry goods. As far as the ag produce we do both raw goods, which is, just fresh cut produce off the fields, as well as finished goods, which are, the bag salads that you might buy in the store. So we have, customers of all types. I know your textbook there goes into a little bit of the information as far as the way rates are negotiated, which a lot of it does have to do with not only the distance, which is a big factor here, but also the types of goods that you're moving. Also covered in your textbook. Talks a lot about the bill of ladings, which is something that's really important, especially George mentioned our consolidation dock. They get different goods of different kinds. So one truck that we move for our customer or for several customers might have, a variety of different goods, fruit of different sizes. And that is something that, the bill of ladings is something that you eventually get familiar with. Because I know something else mentioned in your books, which is something that we really have to be careful about, our claims. I know those are mentioned in the book also. Whenever there's a problem with the goods being delivered, whether there's shortages, overages, or just the quality is not up to par. So that's something we really have to manage as a transportation company. And it's especially tricky since we have to count on our drivers who are out, at the site of loading, at the site of delivering. And it's something where eventually, you have to build relationships, have, trustworthy contacts in order to, make sure that our customers are satisfied as well as our drivers,
Yeah, claims are a huge issue with us, especially. So basically when a claim comes in, and we get claims all the time, whether it's for, so last week we had an issue where a driver, he didn't count all the products. So he was at one of the shippers and they loaded 20 pallets on him, but he signed for on his bill of lading, it said that he picked up 21 pallets. So that ended up being a claim from the customer on that one, just because the driver wasn't counting. So that's a big part of the produce too, is counting. And that's what the BOLs are for. The BOLs will say, pretty much they'll just say where the load's going. It'll have reference numbers so they can pull it up in the system. But yeah, a big part is just matching up what we're picking up and to make sure it matches the BOLs. And typically if the drivers don't do that, then there's going to be claims and stuff, and that's costly. So managing all that is definitely a challenge that we have as well. But that's just a general idea on what we do. Do you guys have any questions or anything you guys want to talk about?
So yeah, feel free to ask questions on the topic, or like, is that okay, George, if I let them ask you about the mentorship or like job?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So feel free to ask questions if you guys have any. They're a little shy, Ernesto, as you can say, but all of the students, I mean, they've had access to the ArcGIS routing problem. That was the first half of the semester. So doing the routing of the truck, for example, for the hotels and all the hotels in the Monterey County, for a truck using the software. And then they also are going through the SaaS training, and we also played the ERP game for on a SaaS platform day for yesterday.
Nice.
So they're kind of capable students, but relatively shy.
Okay. Gotcha.
Just mentioning routing, that's something I think George can speak a little about. It's something that we have two big customers that send us orders the same day that they want things picked up. They have until about 11 a.m. So George here comes in to work at 7:30 in the morning, and he has drivers making deliveries, all over the area from like Salinas up to San Francisco, Sacramento, and drivers that work for us, they're waiting for their next dispatch so that they know how to plan their day, and they want to make sure that they're going to be working that day. So our customers have until about 11 a.m. to send us our orders, and usually these are partial orders. So you might have an order for 2 pallets here, 8 pallets there, and this is something that George works with. One important thing is just being familiar with all the customers in the area, their layout, their hours of operation, whether they're first come, first serve, or they work by appointment only. And so George here does, a lot of the routing, and really important, in this industry, especially in this area, just being familiar with our customers. There's, dozens of locations that George here, either in not just in the Salinas area, but also, the LA area, Coachella area, Arizona even. With, experience, I could ask George, what hours is this place going to be open, or do they work by appointment? And he can tell you, you should pick up here first and then go on to the next place. Or, I wouldn't try to get these two on the same truck because it's 2 different types of produce. And, these bananas should run warmer than these pineapples and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Now, for your name, and then if you're a junior or senior type of thing, then you ask a question.
So my name's David Boyles. I'm a senior-ish. I graduate in a year. I was curious though, do you use a specific program for that? Do you use ArcGIS to do your routing, or do you just do it by physically looking at a map and judging where you're going?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. We have a software that we use. It's called McLeod, and it's supposed to have like recommendations for which truck is supposed to do which load. But when it comes to the routing, it's kind of just, you have to look and see what product's ready. For most of the shippers, I know like there's one shipper, you guys are familiar with Taylor Farms. Taylor Farms, that stuff's never ready. So sometimes they take 12 hours to load a truck and it's only 3 or 4 pallets. So I usually tend to put that as the last stop, because if we put that as the first stop, then, he has to wait 12 hours and he doesn't get the other pickups on. So I just, I know the shippers and what their hours are. A lot of my orders are down in Los Angeles, so I usually start the truck in East LA, like Riverside, and kind of work west and get the pickups as it gets into LA. So it's a little bit of that, but yeah, not specifically for the routing, at least. Not specifically, I'm not using a program.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of in my head.
And one of the challenges there is since a lot of the orders are all entered the same day, as far as our fresh produce, our customers that we work with, they want the berries picked that morning. They don't want the ones that have been sitting in the refrigerator for 2 or 3 days already. So because of that, since everything's done the same day, it's kind of done on the fly. We do have, planning software that helps when you have, days in advance to figure out routing in that case. Also, we do have some customers who like to do the routing on their own. And basically, they just tell us, we want, these pickups done in this order and such deliveries done in that order. Or other times, it just comes down basically to when we can get pickup or delivery appointments. And we know, we have to pick up at or deliver at these 3 places, but it all comes down to their scheduler, which way they can fit us in, and we have to accommodate that.
Kind of work around the appointments, exactly. Good.
Can I tag on that question? What do you use for your ERP? Do you use McMaster, Famous, or?
It's McLeod. It's similar to ERP. So yeah, it's like a trucking software it's pretty, I would say, pretty similar. But yeah.
Any other questions? A lot of them actually or their friends work with Taylor Farms.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, half of them
our drivers do not like, it's hard. We have to convince our drivers to go to Taylor Farms because they know they're going to just sit there all night. That's big challenges.
Hey, some drivers don't mind, they go up there, pull up their Netflix or whatever and just hang out in the truck. But then others, they're trying to keep moving.
Yeah, and they have visited, I take usually my classes to site tours, like companies.
Okay.
So this time, what all companies did we go to? Can you hear them? See, I'm just trying to get them to speak.
Oh, no, I didn't hear.
Ocean Mist.
Oh, Ocean Mist. Okay. Yeah, we're familiar with them. We pick up there almost every day from Ocean Mist. So it's a pretty popular cooler out there.
Hey, I'm Joel. I'm a senior. I was wondering, you said that you guys pretty much transport stuff, to the 5 states that are kind of like the local states around here. What prevents you from moving into other states for transportation?
That's a good question. I would say probably just our capacity right now. We don't have customers that really have any freight going out there. I mean, we can go and ask customers for it, but that's like a whole different business plan that we need to find because right now we have freight that our primary area is probably Northern California down to Southern California. So drivers, they start their day in Northern California, then they go down to Southern California, and we have something to pick up the next day for them. So that's probably just one thing that hinders our expansion is just we don't have freight coming back. We have to go out and find freight and find new customers. There's people that call in and want us to go to Texas, but we don't have anything coming back out of Texas to make it profitable as a company. So we just got to go out and find a new business to link it together with drivers.
A lot also has to do with our drivers. It's just drivers who choose to work for us. A lot of them, it's because of the fact that we are based in California. They know that if they load from Salinas to LA one day, they know the next day they can load from LA back to Salinas and be back home with their families. So a lot of our drivers, they have that strong preference where they want to be home, 3-4 nights a week and be home on weekends. So we don't necessarily have a lot of long haul truckers with us who don't mind, being out in their truck for weeks at a time.
Sure.
This is David again. How many trucks are in your fleet? So that you guys personally own and run daily?
So we have 3 different types of drivers, actually 4. So we have company drivers who they use our truck and our trailer. We have about 30 of those drivers, and then we have owner operators who they own their own truck and they just use our trailer. So we have probably about 30 of those, and then we have owner operators that have their own truck and trailer, probably about 20 of those. So that's 80 total, and then we also use carriers. So carriers are a big part. We have 700 different carriers that we use, and we're calling for those extra capacity loads. When we have 10 loads or 10 drivers and 20 loads, we need someone to cover. So, but our own assets, we have about 80 trucks.
So since they're shy, I'm going to ask you the question.
You can come.
What are typical candidate that you guys go through during the interview process, and then you hire, let's say, 5% of the candidates that you go through the interview process, or 10% of them? What are the first few things that you have to have? For example, if somebody's lacking the skill, let's say, as long as you find the person trainable and personable, or how much is, if it's a technical position, the skill level is important, and so on. Can you talk about those things, especially for somebody who's a first-generation college attendee, and or what type of guidance that person should have, or you wish you knew during your time from college to the first full-time job?
I would say probably experience in the agricultural business is a huge plus. You know the industry and temperatures and products. I would say that's a big advantage. There's nothing really specific that we, if someone doesn't have something, we don't automatically eliminate them. It's just, more experience, the better, obviously. You have anything?
Well, I haven't really been involved in the hiring process myself. I can just say, I think it was a help for myself, just having some familiarity, with the industry. I studied, industrial engineering and supply chain in college, and I can't really say that a lot of that, directly applies, but just, being able to, pick up new skills, learn new things. And a lot of it, is just experience. If any of you out there are bilingual and, speak Spanish, that's a huge plus in this industry, just, being local. George right here is trying to pick up a little Spanish on his own, just because a lot of the drivers we work with also, or even a lot of the shippers. We work with a lot of shippers where you call their main line and they answer you in Spanish. Not only
we have drivers.
Produce shippers. Sometimes you'll call like a nursery to pick up flowers, and it'll be the guy who answers, who's the loading manager. He lives in a little shack out back, So being able to work with all types of people, from the drivers to your customers, that's just a really important skill there.
And we do have a really good training program. So when I was first hired, I was fresh out of college, so I wasn't really familiar with the produce industry, and I picked it up quick. And the training program we have here is pretty thorough and easy to catch on, even if you don't have experience. So.
Go ahead.
Do you guys do internships, or is it what you guys do as far as your training program goes?
Yeah, so we do an internship, and actually we haven't hired any interns yet. I think it's just something that we're just getting started doing. So I think we're looking to hire 1 or 2 interns, and it'll be a lot like a data entry kind of thing, and talking to some of the drivers and helping out with like dispatch support, making appointments, and just kind of started, learning the produce industry and kind of going from there.
Yeah, that kind of when we met your professor, that kind of sparked the idea to have a more developed internship program. And a lot of the things that the intern would be doing, it's things that someone in our operations department, in any department, no matter where you're starting off, the first few weeks, that's the kind of things that you're doing, just to become familiar with the business. Anything from taking in orders to entering orders. We actually just hired a couple of 2 full-time employees, and to become familiar with the business, it just starts from the ground up. Answering phone calls, you never know who's going to be on the other line, what kind of question they have. To data entry, entering the orders, becoming familiar with the software that we use and with the customers.
So I'm going to pick up another Ernesto, because I cannot resist. There's rarely a coincidence like that. Ernesto, where are you working now? Where you want to work next?
I'm currently working for a company called West Rock, which is based out of Salinas, and they specialize in corrugated boxes. And as far as where I want to work at next, that's a good question. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm gonna look around. Obviously, it's going to be in the ag industry. I'm not completely sure what company I want to work for as of yet.
Was he audible to you guys? Yes or no?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys are a little at the distance, so microphone doesn't pick it up. What would you say in terms of, let's say, you wish you had learned in the college? That would be for me, as to what all things can we add to our graduates so then they're more appealing or more hireable, not just for your company or for the other companies that you may have dealt with?
I don't even know. That's a good question. I mean, I would probably just say, as long as you're getting like a good rounded information pretty much on everything, it's hard to specifically, teach them one thing, because there's so many jobs out there you don't know. So I'm not sure. That's a tough question.
So to be more specific, like, do you guys use spreadsheet, or do you think the business uses spreadsheets, or getting trained on or getting familiar with type of software such that at least you can do the loading matching on the paper at least?
Yeah, I mean, every company has different softwares, but yeah, I mean, ERP system or MRP systems, as long as you're familiar with those, I think that's a good start. I use a spreadsheet every day, so obviously Microsoft Office, if you're familiar with that, that's a plus.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, my name is Greg. I'm a senior. I get the impression that the extent of the brokering you guys do is for existing customers when they have capacity that you can't fulfill. Is that correct? You go out searching for additional customers to broker their freight, or is it just for excess capacity for existing customers?
So right now it's just for excess capacity. We actually, one of the 2 guys that we hired, he's actually hired for brokerage. So that's specifically what he's going to do, is go out and see, there's this extra freight, not even just the excess freight, but for other loads, because we get a lot of emails from customers asking if we can go and take this load, but we just don't have capacity for. So we brought him in, and that's kind of something he's looking at right now. He's still training, but that's something he's looking at and he's going to work on. So that's probably a goal that we have. Hopefully within the next year or so, we'll be able to start doing that.
Right now, the bulk of our business, it's with customers that award us, a certain number of loads. But certain customers, have that expectation that it's going to be our own numbered trucks that are going to be doing these loads. So there are customers who, give us the awards on that condition. And that's just for a variety of reasons. But the ones we refer to are as numbered trucks. For the most part, they're using our trailer, but there are drivers who load with us every day. So there's that reliability that, we can count on these drivers. A lot of shippers who put that term in their contract, they're people who have had bad experiences with, hiring individual drivers, for one load here, one load there. A big problem in the industry is just a no-call, no-show at the end of the day when you're expecting for a load to move. And also little things like claims. We've had issues where, an outside carrier who we book for one load, they don't run the reefer at the proper temperature and the whole load goes to waste, which, are big issues. So yeah, we for the most part, our customers, one of the reasons that they, give us their business is because they expect that we'll have reliable drivers behind them. But that there are customers who are more open to, booking loads with outside trucks.
George and Ernesto, if you guys are comfortable, can you also tell us where did you start, how did you start, and how long did it take to the position that you are now? And then second, if you can give us a summary as to what your day-to-day a typical day looks like. I know every day is different, but starting from the beginning of the shift to the end, what are the things that you do in terms of personal skills? And then what are the type of things that you have to do on the computer? I know you touched about matching the loads and all, but to be more specific, so then they know what type of job profiles are out there possible.
Okay, so I'll start. So I'm from Colorado. I went to school at Arizona State, and then after I graduated, I moved to our office in LA. So I started there as just like a dispatch position, pretty much lowest position you could start out. I worked in our Los Angeles facility for about 2 years, and then I was promoted, and they transferred me up here. So I've been working here up in Hollister for about 3 years now, so 5 years total with the company. So basically, when I come in the morning, I have a list of customers, so I probably have 20 customers that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. I check all the freight and make sure, if there's any issues with the freight, I'm talking to customers and they know what's going on. If there's going to be a late shipment or something didn't get picked up, just making sure that they know. And then they also send me orders throughout the day. So I'm for one of our customers. You guys familiar with Rayleigh's in Nob Hill? So they send me all their orders, individual orders. 1 pallet here, 20 pallets here. So I get on my Excel spreadsheet and I pretty much just list all the orders. And then once I have all the orders finalized, I route them and put them on trucks. So typically you can fit 20 to 30 pallets depending on the weight on one truck. So I kind of take that into consideration with the weight and everything. They send me all the weights of all the orders and everything so I can make sure it's legal weight and the driver's not getting busted for having too heavy of a load. So that's something I do. And then there's a lot of changes. So a lot of my customers, they make changes all day long, and I had to communicate with all the drivers, all these changes and everything. So kind of just dealing with the customers, dealing with drivers, and then I also do all the planning. So our main planning system is McLeod, which I previously said. I handle all the stuff from Arizona and Los Angeles coming up north to Northern California. And then we also have another planner that he pretty much works on the inverse, which is, Salinas and Sacramento down south into Arizona and into Los Angeles. So I handle all the Arizona and LA stuff and make sure, we have a truck for each load. And then if we don't, I go out and look for those carriers that can help us out and cover that. So that's typically my day. Some days I get out of here at 4 o'clock. Some days I don't leave till 7 p.m. Just depends on the issues. I can't really leave until everything's done and covered and everyone's happy. But that's a typical day for me.
All right, and as for me, I grew up in Gonzales, graduated high school there, went to Hartnell College for a few years, didn't know what I wanted to do, took a few years off. Eventually, I transferred up to Cal State East Bay in Hayward, where I studied industrial engineering and supply chain. I've only been with the company for 2 years here. And while I've been here, we've always been a small group, about 5-6 people. And this company runs 24 hours a day. So weekends, night shift, there's constantly someone here. So when I first started off, being the new guy, of course, I got stuck with the night shift. So I did a lot of that. Right now, until recently, we just hired on 2 new hires who are still under training. But for the time being, I work more of a support role where I work some weekends. I come in at 6 a.m., do 12-hour shifts. And it's just a matter of always constantly being aware of any issues that arise any time of day, having an idea of, who is doing what, and a lot of dispatching. So there's planners, assigning this driver should go pick this load up here and take it to that destination. So I work, calling all these drivers, maintaining that communication. If there's a driver who's delivering a load and he's been waiting there for 2 hours and they're not receiving him, I help them out, work with our customers. Sometimes we get customers saying, I'm looking for a driver to pick up here, deliver there. Handling issues like this morning, we had a breakdown for a very important customer. We had a trailer full of beer that had to be in San Diego, and our truck broke down in Sylmar. So looking for solutions, like finding where he could go, hop into another truck and still make that delivery on time. So it's a lot of that, George has his loads where he's working with the customers, and at this point I'm mostly working with the drivers to make sure to carry out those plans that we have in place.
Good. Any questions? You guys have any more questions? Well, George and Ernesto, I would sincerely like to thank you for taking the time. I mean, it was a coincidental meeting that we met in San Jose area, but it was good to see somebody from our area, up there. So, but yeah, again, thank you again for taking the time, and I would give the activity to the students, and if they have any follow-up questions, then I'll route them to you. Now, would it be okay if I was to share your presentation with them, only in the students in the class?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no issues with that.
Okay.
And we are, like I said, we are hiring for interns. So if you want to collect some resumes and anyone that's interested and forward them to me, I can get them to our hiring recruiter. We can go from there if you guys are interested in that.
Perfect. I'll pass in your emails, and because sometimes, as I said, they can be shy. It'll take them like a day or two to think over and say yes to me. So then I'll share the contact information, and they'll get directly in touch with you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much again for your time. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.